Alright, so Final Fantasy VII is a very good game. I know this is something, if you've even mildly looked into some of the games considered to be the greatest of all time, you're pretty well aware of this at this point, but I've never played the series before, and I had high expectations with its reputation, especially of this entry, and I wasn't disappointed. And I just really wanted to talk about how much I enjoyed it. Got some gameplay going on here in the background from the intermission side content, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, there was two things that sort of held me up from checking out this series for a really long time. One was the gameplay. I don't know if there's a better name for it, but I've sort of dubbed the genre to be a menu RPG. And I know it's not super different from, pressing a button from an action, but I don't know what it is. It just sort of feels like it takes me a little bit out of that experience and isn't optimal to be sorting through menus and that to do your actions unless there's something really compelling alongside it, like tactical RPGs and trying to position yourself around the map. Luckily, some recent games have gone more into the action RPG route, which I definitely enjoy quite a bit. So that excuse was gone, and another thing I thought of with the series too, and like I said, I kind of gotten over it in recent years, but I always felt like it just seemed too big to get into. Like, I know the games aren't necessarily super connected. There's probably references, but it's different cast. You can get what's going on without playing any prior games for the most part, but I don't know. It's like if I'm going to get into a series, I want to do it right. I want to feel like I have the ambition to play through everything it has to offer. And I was just kind of thought, why play through, the 16 plus Final Fantasy games when I could play through, two or three other really good series. But I don't know. I just got to the point to where I was just like, fuck it, play what you want to play the most, I guess. And it kind of helps that I can kind of split it up too. I think the only action RPGs are this 15, 16. I think 13 Lightning Returns. 14's kind of its own thing with an MMO. So definitely the 3 or 4 entries is a lot less intimidating. I will say the one thing I was disappointed in, and I don't know if it has to come down to me playing on easy because I don't really care. I find a way to have fun no matter how much of a challenge is being offered when it's on the easier side of things. But there's no hit stun, and I don't know. I just prefer that to be a thing because it just adds a whole other layer. If not only are you taking damage, but you also lose out on opportunities to land your own attacks. There may have been some skills that had a little hit stun, but if you really wanted to, you can probably cheese it and just stay in place and heal a ton if you really wanted to. But I think there was some skills that may have required certain positioning and that, so it's not completely worthless to move around. And there's, of course, dodging and blocking to reduce damage. And like I said, I make a challenge out of it to see how long I can go without needing to heal. There is definitely still some sorting through menus, but it's a lot more fun. It's kind of in real time, like things slow down, and it's still sort of relying, you can't be too far away to land the attack, and you get to see these cool animations and stuff, and all sorts of different abilities being unlocked through the game. It gelled really nice, and there was just a lot of stuff like this mini game too, and the sort of bike combat that they had couple times as well was all really fun. Which sometimes you get a little worried when they introduce some sort of recurring new gameplay loop, because sometimes it's just not as fun or good as the normal stuff, but that's not the case here. I was looking forward to the next bike missions, and like I said, this was a fun distraction too that you're seeing right now. Exploration was really fun too. Just lots to, find and collect, different side missions, and something I was surprised at is I was thinking the gameplay would actually be closer to the intermission, where you primarily play as Cloud, but you can activate skills from other party members. But no, you can just flat out in combat play as any of them. They each in exploration have their own sections and their own abilities to reach different areas, which it's just really fun and really good. And like I said, above what I expected. It also feels good, and I know I have a while to go with the series, but to no longer feel left out, you hear and see a lot of discussion around how great, these games and especially the characters of this one in particular are, and now I can definitely understand in that, and it lived up too. It wasn't like all this build up led to a disappointment or anything. And it's not just the main party members that you may be a little more familiar of with some characters that I wasn't even aware of, like different villains and side characters and stuff were also really enjoyable. Special shout out to Cloud too. I feel like sometimes protagonist can kind of fall flat because you try to make it relatable to as many people as possible. You just kind of a lot of times get a boring character. I don't know if maybe it's the world or the characters around them, but Cloud definitely did not have that issue. One of my favorite protagonists now. I do want to talk about the story a little bit, so spoiler alert for the first game if you're one of the few people like me who, wanted to experience it fresh and waited a really long time too, but it's definitely really good as expected. I will say the thing I wanted to talk particularly about is I forget what they're even called. They're sort of hooded, cold, shadowy figures that sort of come in and play a role in certain events to try to prevent certain outcomes, I think. And I don't know. Like I said, I haven't played the original, so maybe I'm, missing something, but I feel like these characters were kind of explained, but I still feel as equally confused about them. And I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know if that should be the case now, but I don't know. I was confused. Were they working with Sephiroth? Were they not? I think I saw something online, and I don't know if it's true or not, but maybe some things are playing out a little differently between this game and the original, and these characters are keeping the events of the original on track or something, which is, I don't know, kind of weird, I guess. Decided to switch up the gameplay showing. This is a little later, just a more normal loop through a bit of a dungeon-y area, but I don't know. And another thing, too, is I felt like a lot of times when weird stuff was going on, they kind of relied on Aerith a little bit, and I don't feel like they really crossed the line of being a little too over-reliant on it, but I think it's a thing that could easily be done. And they even poked a little fun at it, I felt like, towards the end when more weird shit was going on, and they looked at Aerith. She's like, I don't know about this one. And like I said, I guess I should just have faith that, they know what they're doing, but it can be concerning. I just hope they don't become over-reliant on Aerith as sort of, a way to explain things. I also don't know how to feel about what's going on with some of the deaths in that. Like I said, I don't know a lot about the game, but I thought Zack was supposed to die before the events of the game, and now he isn't, which I found really interesting and kind of fun, but also kind of risky because I feel like some of that original intent and delivery behind events, like I don't know how that's going to churn out, but I'm also excited about the potential of it. And another thing too is there was pretty much a straight out death scene for Briggs, but at the end I guess he survived, which I kind of don't like. Like Wedge made sense. We didn't really see him have a full death scene. There was the possibility that he survived, but Briggs and Jesse were pretty much done, So I feel a little weird about that. I don't really like when that happens. I hope they handle it well from this point, but I'm really looking forward to Rebirth. I know I probably don't have as long to wait between playing this and Rebirth as people who played this at launch did, but at the same time it feels different because I'm not going to do it, but theoretically I could go out, buy a PS5 and experience the game in that, or at least, watch some videos on it and that. But, I want to keep it as much of a secret till I finally get a Steam release as much as I can. The situation just really sucks. I'm glad Square's kind of stepping away from that, and hopefully the year or so to wait for it to hit PC isn't that brutal, and hopefully they didn't already sign a 1-year deal with Epic to make us wait another year to play it, because most people like myself are stubborn about that. And I hope they didn't hurt the chances of Part 3. Hopefully we're still good, but I think I saw stuff online about how sales were disappointing, but I hope they can sort of realize, especially since I don't think Rebirth hit PS4, that, PS5, that doesn't have the biggest install base compared to 4, and, Steam and, Epic's kind of in that same position. So hopefully that didn't hurt anything there. We'll see the trailers and release eventually, and it on the preferred platforms sooner than later this time. It's kind of crazy. I was looking at the length of the games, and I think this game was a little shorter than Original 7, and Rebirth is longer than Original 7. So I just think that's kind of crazy. I'm almost kind of curious as to, how they extended it that much, and that. Like, it originally seemed crazy for it to, have to be split up into 3 parts, but here we are. I'm curious as to how they handle other party members, too. Like, we already introduced Red. I'm assuming Yuffie is going to be joining our party. They've already teased Kat. I remember there was a trailer for either Vince or Sid. So I'm assuming one of them will at least have a Red-like role at the end. Hopefully they're not done dirty and can have a full role like the rest of the parties where they can, be built up and have full playable sections and not done dirty. But I'm curious. They had a mission where the party split up, and that was really fun. I hope to see more of that. I wonder if they might do something with that. Maybe they'll scale 11 a little differently, so it's not as big of a deal to have someone on the sidelines. Maybe they'll extend the party. I'm curious, Something I thought was nuts, too, is I was kind of looking into just the Final Fantasy VII stuff in general. I saw that Vincent has a I don't forget if it's first or third person shooter spinoff on PS2. Like, I just think it's really wacky and out there. You don't expect that from a RPG series, I guess, but it was just really noteworthy and crazy, I think I saw that they've even taken elements of that and some of the other media they've produced with it and other spin-offs and even just related works. Like, isn't Advent Children like some sort of animation or something? So it's nice to see them, get used to out of everything, too. I'm sure that's something a lot of fans really enjoy that got super into it. Hopefully when I do a deeper dive, eventually, I'll be able to appreciate some of that stuff, too. But yeah, now the question is, what's going to come first? Me being really in the mood for another Final Fantasy game and caving and playing. I already have 15 and Lightning Returns, or if I'm going to, try to wait for Rebirth. I don't have 16 yet either, but I imagine that might come out before Rebirth, hopefully. I don't know. Or, hopefully in the sense that it's probably concerning if it doesn't get a non-PS5 release. If it's simultaneous, that's all the better. Like I said, I'm going to move on, play some other stuff for now, but definitely looking forward to more from this series when we get there.